Is it time for recess yet? I'm so glad you found time to join us here on the Childcare Director's Chair, where Erica Secoccio shares her best practices that she's refined through her passion of directing childcare centers over the last 23 years. From parenting interaction, systems to save you time, money, and stress, to profitability. She shares it all from the Childcare Director's Chair.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. I'm your host, Erica Secoccio, and I personally would like to invite you to join our community of passionate and inspiring leaders in the early childhood field. On our podcast, we discuss topics around leadership, mentorship, day-to-day operations. We also reflect on best practice. We reflect on what's going on in our industry, and we try to learn from each other's experiences and what's going on, not only in our state, not only in our centers, but throughout our country and honestly throughout the globe. So that's what we really try to do here on our podcast. And we do this because we know that investing in our children, our families, our teachers and community are so important. And we know that they are the heartbeat of any successful program. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about how your employees really build your brand. They are your brand. You can say it's this or that, but at the end of the day, it really is your company culture and your employees that the community interacts with. So it's so important. So let's talk about what could be both positive and negative. So let's start with attitudes. The attitudes of your team set the tone for the entire center. You could be the most amazing leader in the world. It doesn't matter if you don't have the right team. You need people who are positive, have good attitudes, and a great mindset. They have to help you create a welcoming atmosphere in your program. Because if not, when you have negative attitudes, it's going to drive parents away and it's going to drive away good teachers. Nobody wants to deal with that every day. Every smile, every greeting, every interaction shapes the perception of your center, and not just within your four walls. If you have an after-school program and you have a van driver, they are your company when they are out. If you have somebody who runs to Staples weekly to get toner and paper, they are your brand. 95% of centers have uniforms or name tags with, the name of the center that you're working at. Those folks are walking billboards for you. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to support them so that that interaction is as positive as possible for everybody who comes in contact with your school. Behaviors. How can we have behaviors where teachers are engaged with children? We have to think about how they handle conflicts and even conflicts with each other, because employee behaviors reflect the center's values. And if they're not, it is your job to say something about it and do something about it if it continues. It's also your job to lead by example and make sure that you are emulating what you want from your brand. There is not a person that comes in my center that I don't say hello to. My office door is always open. In the morning and the evening, I make sure that I am out of the office and on the floor as visible to families and my team every day. I do have multiple locations, so it is a little bit hard to see everybody every day. But if I am not at that location, I will call in. I will say, hey, it's Erica. I'm checking in. How is it going? What are our accounts? How are the teachers? Is everybody in? Is there anything you need? Any problems, any concerns with parents, and then we address them. I think it really does start with you. You really have to make sure that you are setting the bar above and beyond. In interactions, every interaction between employees, children, and parents is an opportunity to reinforce your center's brand identity. Warm, respectful interactions create a sense of belonging and safety, while cold or dismissive interactions certainly make people feel unwelcome pretty quickly. Think about a time that you went into a place where you didn't feel welcome. You probably didn't return, or you couldn't get out of there quick enough. And you certainly don't want that to be the vibe of your center. So everybody should be doing what you expect from your brand. Quality of care. Quality of care is 100% affected by your employees directly and the impact on your school So think about this. When you see the headlines of, all of these programs throughout the country, and they make the headline, and it's always, it's a bad one because very often the news doesn't cover anything good. One of my friends told me once, she's been in news for a long time, and she said, if it bleeds, it leads. Meaning if it's bad news, people love that shock and awe, right? So what I mean by that is it just takes one employee to do the wrong thing, and your center's on the news. So you have to make sure that you are working really hard so that everybody is meeting your expectations and everybody understands what the quality of care looks like. And if that's not happening in your classrooms, your team feels empowered to say something, even if they're not management, because you don't need a title to lead. So building all those leaders, because again, is that part of your brand? It is for me. I'd like to not only grow my children, I like to grow my team, and I say that a lot because I mean it. It's really important to me. It's important that my team is professional, the way that they present themselves or conduct themselves. It speaks volumes about your center's professionalism and their stance on it. Everything from appearance, are they dressed sharp? Is their hair neat? Are they clean shaven? Are their nails done? All those things make an impact. Their communication skills, both written and verbal. That professionalism builds trust and confidence in your parents. And that typically is why certain teachers are treated one way and other teachers may be treated a different way. It is the way that they present themselves. Are they calm? Are they cool? Do they talk to families all the time, or do they only talk to families when there's a problem, a concern, or the parent forgot to bring in the towel for swim time? So it's really important that you are professional and your team is professional all the time. Because again, that interaction is going to be how parents perceive you, how the children perceive you, any community. Now, let's discuss the importance of aligning employee values with the center's mission and vision. When employees share the same values as the center, they're motivated and they're engaged to work. This shared purpose creates a cohesive team focused on achieving the center's mission and vision. This is why I think strategic planning meetings are so important, because not all employees start at the same time, and they don't all leave at the same time. And I don't just mean during their shift. I mean the way that they come into your company. So you have folks that have been with you 10 years, 20 years. You have folks that have been with you for 2 weeks. So if you don't frequently come together as a group, you're not going to have that cohesion, which is why when you have 2 or 3 or 4 teachers that have worked together for a long time, they typically are, if you're not strategic about it, will typically always refer to each other and go to each other for help. And they may not reach out to new folks, which then makes new folks feel left out. So if you're able to do, whether it's through trainings, whether it's through meetings, especially strategic planning, I just love that. You should do that at least once a year, where you get all the folks, everybody together to keep sharing your purpose, because that shifts a little bit. So again, talk about keeping on brand. What better way to do that than to continually reinforce it in the day-to-day and then lay out the plans for the upcoming year for your team. Consistency also is important. Aligning employee values with the center's mission and vision ensures that there's consistency in behavior and actions across the organization. And I'm going to tell you, consistency is one of the areas that we really struggled with for a long time. And not because we didn't have systems, but some of it was a little bit due to attitudes. I'm going to say attitudes around professional development, or attitudes around wearing the uniform, or attitudes around coming in on time, or leaving late, or just not following rules or policies that were in the handbook. I will say in 23, 24 years, I certainly have had periods of time where we had problem with consistency. And not just consistency in as the company is old, but it could just be particular locations were more consistent than others. So what does that do to my brand? Especially if, for those of you who listen all the time, if you have a location that feeds another location, So if you have like an infant toddler pre-K location that then funnels into a school age location, that needs to look the same. Now, not that a school age program would look the same, but it needs to have that same consistency and be on brand with your company, what your customers are accustomed to. And so when it's not, it becomes a problem. Also, employee satisfaction. Employees who believe in the mission and vision of the center are definitely more satisfied and fulfilling their roles. This satisfaction translates into higher levels of commitment, dedication, and ultimately benefiting your center's brand and reputation. And I have a few employees that are really exceptional at understanding the message. I have some folks that are pretty on par, but they're not quite there yet. And I have to tell you, I have this group of new employees that I just hired for summer camp that we did an onboarding together in a large group for 3 or 4 days. And this group just all clicked. You would think that this group worked together forever, but they really bought into the culture. They really bought into the mission of our school, and you saw it immediately. When they walked in, these five ladies, they walked into the school age program. The staff that had been there for a really long time were like, wow, do they know each other? And they didn't. And it really didn't take that long for that cohesion to happen. And I think a lot of it had to do with just really believing in what we were doing there. And so it does make a big difference. And then having that brand authenticity. When an employee's values align with the center's mission and vision, it creates an authentic brand identity that resonates with parents and the community. I think being authentic also builds loyalty, and it strengthens your center's competitive edge. I can tell you that when I show up at work, again, I'm just telling you the truth, guys. When I show up at work, I show up in a uniform, just like my team. Now, can I dress differently? I can. Can I dress like the owner? I can. I felt like for me, and of course, everybody's going to have different thoughts, but for me, I wanted my team to know I am part of their team. I look at myself as a leader, of course, but also part of the bigger community. And maybe that just comes from the years of coming up through the ranks. I don't really know where that comes from. It's just really who I am. When you typically, meet a childcare owner, they're typically dressed pretty nicely. And I dress nice, but I wear a uniform. Of course, my hair is done. My makeup is done, all those things. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is who I am. I could hop in a classroom at any time. Actually, I hop in a classroom probably a little bit more frequently than most, but I enjoy it there. And I do believe in doing what you love. And I believe that, again, when we talk about role modeling for our team, this is a piece of it. Building the brand, this is a piece of it. For me, I feel like I want to give 120% of everything I have into my centers. And so, again, everybody's going to have their own thoughts and values. So that's, I think about, being authentic and having a positive culture, aligning employees' values with the center's mission and vision. It fosters a positive organizational culture where employees feel valued, they feel respected, and they feel empowered. And a positive culture attracts top teachers. It also helps reduce turnover and enhances your center's brand image. Now let's explore 5 questions that you maybe can ask yourself to help you gauge where are you with your team's performance when you're looking through the lens of representing your brand. Are your employees consistently demonstrating the values outlined in your center's vision and mission? And if so, how? Really think about it. Pull out a piece of paper and say, how? I also want you to think about, how do employees interact with children, parents, and each other on a daily basis? And of course, children and parents are absolutely important, but I feel like really dig deep on how they interact with each other on a daily basis. That's going to tell you a whole lot. And that can do one or two things. When folks in your building are getting along and equally respect each other, synergy happens. When that doesn't happen, the opposite happens. You get cliques, you get water cooler talk, you get employees in the corner whispering to parents, you have employees throwing each other under the bus, to parents, to families, to your licensing worker, right? It's really important that everybody, again, is professional and that they really understand what you stand for as a company. Are there any areas where employees' behaviors and attitudes are not aligned with your brand identity? And think about that, because I can think of 1 or 2 right now off the top of my head in my center that probably need a little bit of a reboot. And I find like if you can hire people, everybody's excited when they start a new job. What are you doing to make sure that that message, that excitement stays with that person throughout their career with you? The policies and procedures. How do you make sure that those things, because that's where we set our standards, that we are upholding those to the highest level? Also, think about this. Are employees receiving adequate training and support to uphold your brand standards? Do you even use those words in your center? You might use the word standard, but is it your standard or is it the ECHR standard, the quality rating standard, the NACI standard, right? Those are all important. However, your brand identity, what you stand for, your vision, your mission, all of that also is equally important. And your employees need to know what it is. And they're going to understand that from you. Do you have adequate training in place for them? And it really should be from you or someone at a senior level who really understands what you're doing and why we're doing it. Also, what feedback are we receiving from parents and the community about our employees' performance? Are you even evaluating that? Are you asking parents? Are they happy with the services from the teacher? Are they happy with the services from your company? And your community folks too, the people that you have partnerships with, maybe even ask, like if you use like an outside company, like a landscaper, like a flooring company, like a cleaning company, ask them. Say, hey, I'd like to know, how do my employees treat you when you arrive? How do my employees engage with you? Do you feel that it's the same level, the same welcoming as when you talk with me? So there's a lot of places you can get golden nuggets, I guess is my point. Because at the end of the day, we can think that our center is whatever it is, but it is going to be those folks that are having those interactions with everyone else on behalf of your brand. So here are 5 strategies that you can use to help improve the way that employees represent your brand. Number 1, training and development. You have to invest in ongoing training and development programs that enhance your employees' skills and reinforce the center's brand values. Now, I know you send them to all types of trainings around education, maybe around getting certifications, but are you sending them to communication workshops? Are you sending them to skill set workshops where they can learn more about improving, the customer experience or the community experience? Also, are you providing regular feedback? That's tip number 2. Provide regular feedback and recognition to employees who go above and beyond to meet your center's brand values and address any concerns or areas for improvement right away. The quicker you do that, the less problems you're going to have. The longer you let things slide, the harder it is to turn it around. So just do it right away. And if you let things slide for a long time, that's okay. Take a breath. Make a plan, talk to everybody as a group. Say, hey, I feel like we've strayed away from this or that. I really need to, we really need to, as a group, what do you need from me? How can I help you? And then do that. Now, of course, leading by example. Set a positive example as a leader by embodying your center's values and expectations in your own behavior and your own interactions. You cannot expect your team to be professional if you're stomping around your center, slamming doors, yelling, and talking about other employees on the floor or parents on the floor. Super unprofessional. So make sure that you check yourself sometimes. Communication is so important. That's tip number 4. Foster open and transparent communication channels to ensure employees understand the importance of their role in shaping the center's brand identity. And number 5 is an employee engagement. Involve employees in decision-making process and encourage them to contribute ideas from improving your center's brand representation. I always feel like I get the best feedback from the team because they're there more than anyone else. Somebody can walk in and, maybe not know a teacher and be like, oh, she isn't very friendly. They've met her once. I think, talking with your team and getting feedback from them who are there day after day after day, they can really give you a really good gauge as to where they are themselves and where their coworkers are in terms of understanding what's going on. Some of the things that I think you also need to think about that can create negative attitudes and behaviors. We talked about some of the tips on how to make it positive, but things I want you to think about. Is your team overworked or are they stressed? Do you have them working long hours? Are they getting enough breaks? Do they have some high stress children in their room that are leading them to burnout? And if so, do you have a plan in place? Maybe it's a third teacher. Maybe it's getting that child services. Maybe it's a conversation with the parents to make sure that the child's in the right setting. A lot of things you can do around that. You also want to make sure they don't feel like there's a lack of support, because we know that employees who feel unsupported by management can become disengaged. And when they do, negative behavior starts to happen. They start to call out more. They start to complain on the floor, which really does bring down morale. And honestly, if that goes on too long, your good teachers start sneaking out the side door and they're going and they're not coming back. The other thing too is, I know we're all working on this as an industry, but low pay or job insecurity are other things that really can be a factor in the attitude of the work that our teachers are doing. So try your best to do the incentives that you can. Make sure that people do not feel undervalued, because not everything comes down to money, but money certainly doesn't hurt. But whatever you can do, whatever type of incentive you can do for your team that's ongoing will really help with the way that people feel about your culture and your brand, right? Conflict and miscommunication. Workplace conflicts and misunderstandings with coworkers and supervisors or parents really can create tension and strain on relationships. Poor communication channels or unresolved issues can really get big, and negative attitudes really can get pretty nasty. So make sure that if there is some grumblings, that some folks are not getting along, that you address it. And lastly, I would say somebody might be having personal issues. Childcare employees, like anyone else, they face personal challenges outside of work that can impact their mood and their behavior at work. Personal issues such as health problems, family issues, or financial difficulties definitely can impact the ability to maintain a positive attitude and interact positively with others. So again, this is where taking care of your people really comes into play. So those are just some tidbits to think about when we think about the role that your employees play in shaping your center's brand. Because again, you could put the mission statement on the wall, you could put it in the handbook, but if everyone isn't living and breathing it while they're in your center, it doesn't mean anything. It's just words on paper. You bring it to life, you and your team. So again, I say almost at every episode that it's the little details that make a big impact in the success of your childcare business. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here today, is these little details, things that we can get overlooked. When you look at, even for yourself, when you're looking at professional development, how often are you finding PD around building a brand? Or, you might find some that are like how to make a vision, how to set a vision, how to write a mission statement. But how do you live it? How do you make that be alive in your center? And at the end of the day, it's you and your team. It's you and your team, and it's every interaction. Positive or negative, it's really up to you. So that's pretty much it for today's episode, but I do have a nice little juicy tidbit. I know this was a little longer episode, but we are giving away a $100 gift card to Lakeshore Learning, and it will take you about less than 3 minutes to try to win this gift card. So up in the notes, or down in the notes, very first part of the notes, it says text the show. I would love to hear from you on what episode is your favorite and why. Then just give me your name, your mailing address, and I'm going to pick one lucky winner in the next 2 weeks to win a $100 gift card from Lakeshore Learning. I feel like I appreciate you guys all so much. And I know I normally tell you at the beginning of the show, but I really appreciate you all so much and tuning in every day and giving that little bit of time. So I hope that I'm bringing you value. I hope that you learned some things today about why it's important to keep your finger on the culture of your program and how you can really get your team to get behind your brand and make you be the best childcare center on the block, in the state, in the country, in the world, whatever your dream is. So, but it starts with you. So that's all for today. Have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Childcare Director's Chair.